Daniel led Nayeli toward the secure diplomatic quarters. You're risking everything for this principle. For us, your position, your right to rule. Nayeli shifted smoothly into her humanoid form, now appearing as a tall woman with striking features and otherworldly grace. Only the unusual violet color of her eyes hinted at her alien nature. Some things are worth the risk, Daniel, she said softly. Now, show me this contingency omega you've prepared. We have work to do if we're going to change centuries of Cytherian tradition in one orbit cycle. As they walked together through the hallways of the diplomatic building, people stopped to stare. The princess of the Cytherian Empire walking hand in hand with a human was still an unusual sight, even in the international environment of the diplomatic corps, but for Daniel and Nayeli, it felt like the most natural thing in the universe. Admiral Corrin, commander of the Queen's personal guard, moved quietly through the secure communications center of the Eternal Dominion. His scaled skin was a deep purple, marking him as a member of the warrior caste, and the ceremonial scars across his face told of countless battles won in service to the throne. Report, he commanded, and the communications officer straightened immediately. The princess's shuttle has landed at the Earth Diplomatic Corps headquarters in Geneva, the officer said. She's with the human liaison, Daniel, right? Corrin's secondary eyes narrowed. And the Queen's instructions? Watch only for now. We have agents positioned throughout the diplomatic quarter. The Admiral nodded, satisfied. Keep me informed of any developments. The Queen wishes to know exactly what her daughter is planning. As Corrin left the communications center, he was stopped by Sarini, the royal advisor and childhood friend to Princess Nayeli. Her light green scales marked her as a member of the scholarly caste. Admiral, she greeted formally, though her tone carried a hint of suspicion. Monitoring the princess's movements now, are we? By order of the Queen, Corrin replied stiffly. The princess's relationship with the human poses potential security risks. Serena's head crest rippled with amusement. Security risks? Or risks to the Queen's carefully arranged marriage alliance with the Proxima dynasty? It is not my place to question Her Majesty's concerns, Corrin said. Nor is it yours, Advisor Serene. Perhaps not, Serena conceded. But as someone who has watched Nayeli grow from hatchling to heir, I can tell you this. She has never been one to follow tradition blindly. She sees potential in the humans that many of us have overlooked. Corrin made a dismissive gesture with his lower arms. Humans are resourceful, I'll grant them that. But they are also chaotic, unpredictable. Their emotions rule them. And yet, Serena countered, in less than 2 centuries of spaceflight, they've established colonies on 3 planets, developed innovations in medicine that even our scientists find impressive, and managed to negotiate trade agreements with species that have historically despised each other. Temporary successes, Corrin said. Their civilization is young. They haven't faced the tests of time. Serena's eyes gleamed. Neither had we once. Remember your history, Admiral. The Cytherian Empire wasn't always the dominant force it is. Today, we were once considered primitive by the elder races. Before Corrin could respond, his communication implant chimed. Admiral, we have detected unusual communication patterns from the princess's location. She appears to be contacting members of the Imperial Council directly. Corrin's posture stiffened. Which members? Counselor Vex, Counselor Myriad, and Elder Zahn so far. Sereni couldn't suppress a smile. Old progressives who have advocated for closer ties with Earth, clever girl. The Queen must be informed immediately, Corrin said, moving to leave. Admiral, Serena called after him. Consider this. If the princess succeeds in gaining council support, opposing her could create a constitutional crisis. The Empire has not seen such division since the succession wars 3 centuries ago. Corrin paused. What are you suggesting? Only that there may be more diplomatic ways to handle this situation than whatever the Queen is planning. Serene's voice was carefully neutral. Ways that don't risk splitting the Empire over a single relationship. The Admiral studied Serene carefully. You've already chosen sides, haven't you, Advisor? I've chosen the Empire's future, Serena replied. Have you? Meanwhile, on Earth, Princess Nayeli and Daniel sat in a secure conference room with Catherine Powell, the United Nations Secretary for Extraterrestrial Affairs. A veteran diplomat with steel-gray hair and piercing blue eyes, Powell had been instrumental in establishing Earth's first contact protocols. Princess, while I sympathize with your situation, you must understand the diplomatic complexities. Powell said carefully, Your mother is not just your parent. She's the sovereign of an empire that controls trade routes vital to Earth's colonies. I understand the political realities better than anyone, Madam Secretary, Nayeli replied, which is why I've already contacted key members of our Imperial Council. If enough of them support my position, even the Queen must yield. Daniel leaned forward. We're not asking Earth to take sides in a family dispute. We're proposing something more significant, a formal alliance between humans and Cytherians, starting with the recognition of cross-species relationships. Powell raised an eyebrow. That's quite ambitious. Ambitious, yes, Nayeli agreed, but necessary. The old alliances, like the one my mother seeks with the Proxima dynasty, are based on outdated principles of genetic purity and military strength. A partnership with humanity would be based on innovation, adaptation, and mutual respect. The Proxima dynasty, Powell repeated thoughtfully. Aren't they the ones pushing for restricted human expansion in the Orion Arm? Daniel nodded. They see Earth as a potential competitor. If Nayeli marries Prince Zorth as planned, it would strengthen the anti-human faction in this region of space. Powell tapped her fingers on the table, considering. So this is as much about galactic politics as it is about your relationship. The personal and the political have always been intertwined for royalty, Nayeli said with a hint of sadness. But yes, this is larger than just Daniel and me. It's about the future direction of the Cytherian Empire and humanity's place in the galactic community. And what do you need from Earth? Powell asked directly. Formal recognition of our relationship. As a diplomatic union, Daniel answered. And potentially asylum for Nayeli if the Queen takes drastic measures. Powell's expression remained neutral, but her eyes betrayed concern. Granting asylum to the heir of the Cytherian Empire would be unprecedented. It could be seen as Earth kidnapping a royal heir. Not if the Imperial Council supports me, Nayeli countered. I need time to build that support, 1 orbit cycle, to be precise. After a moment of contemplation, Powell nodded. I'll bring this to the Security Council. In the meantime, you'll both remain under diplomatic protection. She stood, signaling the end of the meeting. I hope you understand what you're risking, Princess. Both for yourselves and for our worlds. As Powell left, Daniel turned to Nayeli. She's right, this could go very wrong. Nayeli took his hand, her scaled fingers intertwining with his human ones. Or it could change everything for the better. Isn't that what humans do best? Take impossible risks for a better future? Daniel smiled despite his concerns. I thought that was just me being reckless. No, Nayeli said softly. It's what made me fall in love with you. And perhaps what might make the Empire fall in love with humanity. Back on the Eternal Dominion, Queen Zalvaria received Admiral Corrin's report with cold fury. 7 Council members, she repeated, her voice dangerously low. Including Elder Zahn. Yes, Your Majesty, Corrin confirmed. The Princess appears to be building a coalition to challenge your authority on this matter. The Queen's head crest flattened completely, a sign of extreme displeasure. And what of Advisor Serene? Where do her loyalties lie? Corrin hesitated. She has expressed concerns about potential division within the Empire. She suggested a more diplomatic approach might be warranted. Did she? The Queen's secondary eyes narrowed. And what is your assessment, Admiral? You who have sworn to protect the Empire and its traditions. The Princess's actions are unprecedented, Your Majesty, Corrin said carefully, but so is this situation. No royal has ever claimed Villareth with a non-Cytherian before. The Queen's head snapped up. Villareth? My daughter claims the deep bond with this human? She has not stated it officially, Corrin replied, but her actions suggest as much. Queen Ziovaria was silent for a long moment, her multiple eyes unfocused as she processed this information. Then decisively she rose from her throne. "Prepare my personal shuttle, Admiral. It is time I saw this human for myself." Corrin's crest raised in surprise. "Your Majesty wishes to go to Earth? Personally?" "Sometimes a queen must act directly," Zalvaria said, "especially when her heir apparent is being influenced by alien ideas." As the Admiral hurried to carry out her orders, the Queen moved to her private viewing portal. Her reflection overlaid the distant image of Earth, a small blue dot in the vastness of space. "Why that human?" she whispered to herself. "Of all the beings in the Empire, why choose one whose life will be over in a mere century?" The answer, she knew, awaited her on Earth, and for the first time in over 50 years, Queen Ziovaria of the meditation chamber aboard the Eternal Dominion was ancient, its walls embedded with crystals that had been harvested from the Cytherian homeworld thousands of years ago. They hummed with subtle energy, attuned to the unique brainwave patterns of the royal bloodline. Daniel sat cross-legged on a cushion, trying to calm his racing heart. Around him, Cytherian priests moved and practiced patterns, preparing the chamber for the trial of shared minds. Despite their alien appearance, there was something universal about their ceremonial movements, a reverence that transcended species. Across the ship, in an identical chamber, Nayeli was undergoing the same preparations. They had spent the previous day in intense mental training, with Nayeli teaching Daniel the basics of Cytherian meditation and thought-sharing. "The human's neural pathways are remarkably adaptable," one priest observed to another in their native tongue, not realizing Daniel had learned enough of their language to understand. "Adaptable, yes, but fundamentally different," the other replied. "No non-Cytherian has ever successfully completed the trial." "Is that why the Queen chose this test?" Daniel asked in careful Cytherian, surprising them both. The older priest recovered quickly. "The Queen chooses as she sees fit. It is not for us to question, but it is for me to understand," Daniel pressed. "This trial, it's not just about proving my connection to Nayeli, is it? It's about proving humanity's potential value to the Empire." The priests exchanged glances. Finally, the younger one spoke. "The trial of shared minds reveals truth beyond words or actions. If you succeed, it would suggest humans have capacities we have not recognized." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. In the short time he'd known Queen Zalvaria, he'd realized she was as much a strategist as she was a traditionalist. This trial wasn't just a personal challenge, it was a test case for human-Cytherian relations. The chamber door opened and Queen Ziovaria entered, now dressed in formal ceremonial robes rather than armor. Behind her came several members of the Imperial Council, including Elder Zahn, whose ancient scales had faded to a pale blue with age. The preparations are complete?" the Queen asked. "Yes, Your Majesty," the elder priest confirmed. "Both chambers are attuned, the princess is ready." The Queen turned her attention to Daniel. "And you, human? Are you prepared to enter a mental realm unlike anything your species has experienced?" Daniel rose to his feet, showing proper respect, but maintaining eye contact with the Queen's primary eyes. "I am." Elder Zahn moved forward, her movements slow but deliberate. "I have observed many trials in my long life, but never with a non-Cytherian participant. This is unprecedented." "Much about the princess's choices has been unprecedented," the Queen remarked dryly. Zahn's ancient eyes studied Daniel with surprising intensity. "Tell me, Daniel Wright, why do you believe you can succeed where even some Cytherians have failed?" Daniel considered his answer carefully. "I don't know that I can succeed, Elder. What I do know is that Nayeli and I share a connection that transcends our physical differences. If that's what Villareth truly is, then perhaps it's enough." The Elder made a sound that might have been laughter, wisely said. "Uncertainty acknowledged without fear." She turned to the Queen. "I will oversee this trial personally, Your Majesty." The Queen inclined her head in respect. "As you wish, Elder." As the ceremonial preparations continued, Daniel was instructed to lie on a crystalline platform in the center of the chamber. Above him, a complex apparatus descended from the ceiling, its purpose unclear but its design unmistakably advanced. The trial of shared minds has 3 phases, Elder Zahn explained. First, separation, your consciousness will be detached from your physical form. Second, seeking, you must find Princess Nayeli in the mental realm. Finally, synchronization, your thoughts must harmonize completely to find the way back. What happens if we fail? Daniel asked. If you cannot find each other, your minds will wander until your bodies expire, Zahn said bluntly. If you find each other but cannot synchronize, you may return, but with your minds altered. Daniel swallowed hard. Altered how? Fragmented, incomplete. The elder's expression was solemn. It is why the trial is rarely attempted, even among life-bonded Cytherians. Before Daniel could respond, the apparatus above him activated, bathing him in soft blue light. He felt a strange, tingling sensation spread from his head throughout his body. Remember what Nayeli taught you, Elder Zahn said, her voice already sounding distant. Find the quiet center of yourself. Then seek the resonance that connects you to her. Daniel closed his eyes, focusing on his breathing as Nayeli had instructed. He visualized their connection as a golden thread stretching between them, an image she had given him to focus on during the trial. The tingling intensified, and suddenly Daniel felt as though he were floating. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the meditation chamber. Instead, he found himself in a vast, star-filled void with no sense of up or down, no physical body that he could perceive. This must be the mental realm, he thought, and was startled to see his thoughts manifest as ripples of light in the void around him. Focus, he reminded himself. Find the connection. Find Nayeli. He concentrated on the image of the golden thread, willing it to appear. For what seemed like an eternity, nothing happened. Then, faintly, he perceived a thin strand of golden light stretching away into the distance, there. Daniel followed the thread, his consciousness moving through the void with increasing confidence. As he progressed, he began to sense emotions that were not his own: determination, worry, love. Nayeli's emotions bleeding through their connection. On coming, he projected his thoughts along the thread. Follow my voice. The response came not in words but in a surge of recognition and relief. She had heard him. The golden thread grew brighter, stronger. In the distance, Daniel perceived another consciousness approaching. Familiar yet alien, complex in ways his human mind struggled to comprehend. Nayeli in her true mental form. As they drew closer, Daniel felt a moment of doubt. Her consciousness was so vast, so different from his own. How could they possibly synchronize? Daniel, her thought voice reached him, clearer now. Don't be afraid. See with more than your human perception. He tried to understand what she meant. Then, remembering their training, he stopped trying to perceive her through human concepts and simply opened himself to the experience of her. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Nayeli's consciousness wasn't just alien, it was beautiful. A symphony of thoughts and memories and emotions that stretched back decades before his birth and reached toward possibilities beyond his human lifespan. And within that symphony he found themes that resonated with his own consciousness: curiosity, compassion, the desire to bridge differences rather than fear them. There came Nayeli's thought. Now you see, this is why I chose you, Daniel. Because even though our minds work differently, the core of who we are resonates at the same frequency. Their consciousnesses began to orbit each other, golden light flowing between them. Daniel felt himself changing, expanding, while simultaneously experiencing Nayeli's consciousness, adapting to accommodate his human perspective. This is synchronization, she explained. Neither fully Cytherian nor fully human, but something new, something shared. As their thoughts harmonized, the void around them transformed. Stars coalesced into familiar patterns, constellations visible from both Earth and the Cytherian homeworld. The mental realm was responding to their unified vision. We need to return now. Nayeli's thoughts flowed into his. Together, focus on our physical forms, on the meditation chambers. Daniel concentrated, holding the image of his body lying on the crystalline platform. He felt Nayeli doing the same, their synchronized thoughts creating a path back to physical reality. The void began to fade, the stars dimming. Daniel felt a sudden sensation of falling, then a jarring return to his body. He gasped, eyes flying open to find himself back in the meditation chamber. Elder Zan stood over him, her ancient eyes wide with astonishment. "Extraordinary," she murmured. "Your minds were in perfect harmony." Daniel sat up slowly, his head swimming. "Nayeli? Is she?" "The princess has returned safely," one of the priests confirmed. "She is being attended to in her chamber." "Queen!" Xiovaria stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You succeeded," she said, not quite a question. "We did," Daniel replied, still disoriented from the experience. "I felt her mind, and she felt mine. We found each other in the void and returned together." The Queen studied him intently. "Describe what you experienced." Daniel struggled to find words. "It was like nothing I've ever known. I saw her true self beyond physical form. Her consciousness was vast, complex, beautiful. And somehow, despite our differences, we resonated at the same frequency." "And the synchronization?" Elder Zan asked. "It was natural," Daniel answered, surprised at his own certainty. "Once we found each other, our thoughts began to flow together. Not becoming identical, but harmonizing like two different instruments playing the same melody." The Queen and Elder exchanged a meaningful glance. "No Cytherian has ever synchronized with a non-Cytherian mind before," Zan said. "That you achieved this on your first attempt is remarkable." "It was Nayeli," Daniel said simply. "She guided me. She showed me how to see beyond human perception." Perhaps," the Queen said thoughtfully. Queen Xiovaria looked at her daughter and the human with new eyes. The evidence before her could not be denied. "The trial of shared minds has revealed a truth I was not prepared to accept," she said, her voice carrying the weight of formal decree. "Daniel Wright has demonstrated a capacity for mental synchronization that we believed unique to our species. In doing so, he has proven that the bond he shares with Princess Nayeli is indeed Villareth." Nayeli's head crest fluttered with emotion, but she remained silent, allowing her mother to continue. "As Queen of the Cytherian Empire, I hereby recognize this bond between Princess Nayeli and Daniel Wright of Earth," Xiovaria proclaimed. "Furthermore, I propose to the Imperial Council that we reconsider our approach to human-Cytherian relations." Elder Zan stepped forward, her ancient eyes gleaming. "I speak for the progressive faction of the Council when I say that we welcome this wisdom, Your Majesty. The human species has shown remarkable potential. An alliance based on mutual respect, rather than military necessity, would serve the Empire well." The Queen nodded. "And what of the Proxima dynasty? Their expectations regarding a royal marriage must be addressed." Perhaps," Zan suggested, "a trade agreement instead of a marriage." "Alliance? The Proxima value our crystalline technology? We could offer preferential access in exchange for their continued military support." "A diplomatic solution," the Queen mused. "One that preserves both alliances." She turned to Daniel. "You have impressed me, human. Few of my own species would have risked the trial as you did." "I had something worth fighting for, Your Majesty," Daniel replied simply, glancing at Nayeli. The Queen's secondary eyes narrowed slightly. "Indeed, and now that you have my recognition, what do you intend to do with it?" Daniel straightened his posture, meeting the Queen's gaze directly. "With your permission, I wish to formalize our union according to both human and Cytherian customs. And then I hope to serve as a bridge between our peoples, helping to build an alliance that benefits both." A lofty ambition," the Queen observed. "But one consistent with your actions thus far." She turned to her daughter. "And you, Nayeli? Do you still wish to be heir to the Empire, knowing that your consort's lifespan will be but a fraction of your own?" A shadow passed over Nayeli's features, but her voice remained steady. "I do, Mother. The pain of his eventual loss is a price I accept for the joy of our time together. And I believe our union will show others that difference need not be feared, but can be a source of strength." Queen Xiovaria was silent for a moment, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence, a sign she was deep in thought. "Very well," she finally said. Return with me to Earth. We will announce our new policy regarding human-Cytherian relations, beginning with the formal recognition of your bond. As the royal shuttle approached Earth once more, Daniel stood beside Nayeli at the viewport, watching the blue planet grow larger. Your mother's change of heart seems almost too good to be true, he said quietly. Nayeli's scaled hand squeezed his gently. The trial revealed truth that could not be denied. And my mother, for all her traditionalist views, has always put the Empire's interests first. She sees the potential in an alliance with humanity now. And the Proxima dynasty? Will they accept being offered a trade deal instead of a royal marriage? They will not be pleased, Nayeli admitted. But they need our crystalline technology more than we need their military support. They will adapt. Daniel smiled at her choice of words. Adapt. That seems to be the theme of our relationship. A theme that will serve both our peoples well in the coming years? She replied. The shuttle landed at the Earth Diplomatic Corps' headquarters, where a hastily assembled delegation waited to receive them. Catherine Powell stood at the front, her expression a careful mask of diplomatic neutrality. Queen Ziovaria descended from the shuttle with imperial dignity, followed by Nayeli and Daniel. The Earth security forces snapped to attention, and Powell stepped forward with a formal bow. Your Majesty, we are honored by your presence. I trust your return brings good news. Indeed it does, Secretary Powell, the Queen replied. I wish to address your United Nations Security Council regarding a new era in human-Cytherian relations. Powell's eyebrows rose slightly, the only indication of her surprise. They are assembled and waiting, Your Majesty, if you will follow me. As they walked toward the council chambers, Lava Bennett appeared at Daniel's side. What happened up there? She whispered. You went aboard a Cytherian royal flagship and came back with the Queen herself in tow? I passed the test, Daniel said simply. One that proved what Nayeli and I have been saying all along, that humans and Cytherians are more compatible than anyone believed. Some test, Lovra muttered. The diplomatic corps has been in chaos since you left. Half the analysts thought you'd be executed for daring to court the princess. Daniel smiled. Instead, it looks like I'm about to become the first human Cytherian diplomatic consort. Lavara shook her head in amazement. Only you, Daniel. Only you could turn an interspecies scandal into a historic alliance. Inside the United Nations Security Council chamber, representatives from Earth's major nations watched with varying degrees of astonishment as Queen Ziovaria, ruler of the most powerful alien empire known to humanity, addressed them directly. People of Earth, the Queen began, her translator device rendering her complex harmonic speech into clear English. For too long, the Cytherian Empire has viewed your species through the lens of our own preconceptions. We saw your brief lives and rapid development as signs of instability. We were wrong. A murmur ran through the assembled diplomats. Recent events have demonstrated that humans possess qualities we had not fully appreciated. Your adaptability, your capacity for connection across boundaries, your willingness to embrace the unknown, these are strengths, not weaknesses, the Queen gestured to Daniel and Nayeli. My daughter, Princess Nayeli, heir to the Cytherian throne, has chosen a human as her life-bonded partner. I have witnessed their connection through our most sacred ritual, and I recognize it as true Villareth, what you might call soul bonding. Secretary Powell leaned forward. Your Majesty, are you suggesting that you approve of this union? I am doing more than approving it, the Queen replied. I am proposing that it serve as the foundation for a new alliance between our peoples. One based not on military necessity or economic advantage alone, but on mutual understanding and respect. The council chamber erupted in excited conversation. The Queen waited for silence before continuing. To this end, I offer the following. First, official recognition of human Cytherian partnerships with all the legal protections such recognition entails. Second, an exchange of knowledge in areas where each of our species excels. Third, joint colonization rights in the previously disputed Orion arm sectors. This last announcement caused several council members to gasp audibly. The Orion Armed Territories had been a point of tension between human expansion efforts and the Cytherian Empire for years. In return, the Queen continued, we ask for human assistance in diplomatic matters where your species has shown remarkable skill and access to your innovative approaches to problems our own scientists have struggled to solve. Secretary Powell stood. Your Majesty, this is an extraordinarily generous offer. The Council will need time to discuss and formalize a response. Of course, the Queen acknowledged. Diplomatic protocols must be observed. In the meantime, I give my blessing to the union between Princes Nayeli and Daniel Wright. Their formal bonding ceremony will take place 1 month from today, with representatives from both our peoples in attendance. As the meeting concluded, Daniel found himself surrounded by Earth diplomats eager to understand how this remarkable turn of events had come about. Through it all, Nayeli remained at his side, her presence a constant reminder of what they had achieved together. Later that evening, in the privacy of their diplomatic quarters, Daniel finally had a moment alone with Nayeli. Your mother certainly knows how to make an entrance, he said with a smile. And an exit. The entire diplomatic corps is reeling. Nayeli's scales shimmered with amusement. She has always had a flair for the dramatic. But make no mistake, every word was carefully calculated. The alliance she proposed benefits both our peoples. I know, Daniel said. I just can't believe how quickly everything changed. Yesterday she was threatening to send me to a mining colony. Nayeli took his hands in hers, all 4 of them. The trial changed everything, Daniel. What we shared in the mental realm, what we proved was possible, it couldn't be ignored or dismissed. And now we're going to be formally bonded, he said. The reality of it still sinking in. With the blessing of both our worlds. The first of many such unions, I hope, Nayeli said. A beginning, not an end, Daniel pulled her close. Your mother asked why that human, why me of all the beings in the universe. I don't know if I ever properly answered her. Nayeli's head crest extended in a display of deep affection. You didn't need to. You showed her. You showed everyone. Outside their window, Earth's moon rose over the Geneva skyline, its light mingling with the distant glow of the eternal dominion in orbit above. 2 worlds, so different yet now connected by an unexpected bond. All because a princess had seen potential where others saw only limitations, and a human. The massive Zoraxian royal ship drifted through space, its purple-hued lights flickering as internal systems failed one by one. Inside the grand throne room, Princess Lurania watched her vital signs drop on the monitoring screens built into her ceremonial armor. The ship shuddered again as another blast hit the hull. Her royal guards, once numbering in the dozens, were now reduced to just 5 warriors fighting desperately at the entrance to the chamber. Your Highness, we cannot hold them much longer, called out Guard Captain Valex, his typically stoic voice now strained with urgency. Your breathing apparatus is critically damaged. We must get you to an escape pod. Lyrania touched the cracked control panel on her chest plate. All Zoraxians required atmospheric regulation when traveling outside their homeworld. Their lungs, evolved in the methane-rich environment of SciFiPrime, could not process oxygen-rich environments for more than minutes without assistance. The princess's royal bloodline made her even more sensitive than most. The escape pods were the first systems they targeted, she replied, her multifaceted eyes scanning the tactical displays. The Krell knew exactly where to strike. Meanwhile, light years away but closing fast, the UEN Pathfinder sliced through the darkness of space. Earth's first faster-than-light vessel represented humanity's greatest achievement, a ship capable of crossing vast interstellar distances in days rather than centuries. Lieutenant John Miller stood at the weapons console on the bridge, his broad shoulders tense as he monitored the unusual energy readings appearing on his screen. At 32 years old, John had spent more than a decade in Earth's United Defense Force before being selected for this historic mission. His brown hair was cut short in military fashion, and his green eyes narrowed as he studied the data. Captain Reeves, I'm picking up weapons fire approximately 2 light hours ahead, he reported, looking up at his commanding officer. Captain Lisa Reeves, a veteran of Earth's orbital defense forces, moved to his station with quick, precise steps. Her expression remained calm despite the unexpected development. "Are you certain, Lieutenant? We're well beyond any charted human territory." "The energy signatures are unmistakable, Captain. Someone's in a serious fight out there." Communications Officer Eric Donahue turned in his chair. "Captain, I'm detecting what appears to be a distress signal. It's not using any known human protocol, but the pattern suggests an intelligence source." Captain Reeves considered her options. The Pathfinder's mission was primarily scientific exploration, but they were still a military vessel equipped for potential conflict. First contact with an alien civilization during a battle was far from ideal. "Plot an intercept course," she finally ordered, "but keep us at a safe distance initially. We need to assess the situation before committing." As the Pathfinder altered course, Dr. Alan Wright, the ship's chief xenobiologist, joined them on the bridge. His eyes lit up with excitement behind his glasses. "Potential first contact, Captain? This is exactly why we're out here." "It might be a bit more complicated than we hoped, Doctor," Reeves replied. "Lieutenant Miller, prepare a rescue team. If there are survivors out there, they may need immediate assistance." John nodded. "Yes, Captain. I'll take security officers Kelly Daniels and Sam Rogers." Within hours, the Pathfinder dropped out of FTL speed near the battle site. The bridge crew fell silent as the main view screen revealed the scene. A massive ship, at least 3 times the size of their own vessel, drifted at an odd angle. Its elegant design, with sweeping curves and what appeared to be crystalline structures along its hull, was marred by massive damage to its engine section. Several smaller, darker ships surrounded it, periodically firing weapons into the wounded vessel. "Those smaller ships are targeting specific systems," John observed. "This isn't random destruction, it's a calculated attack." Captain Reeves straightened. Her uniform. "Lieutenant Miller, your team is cleared to board the damaged vessel. Priority is survivor recovery and assessment. Do not engage the hostile forces unless absolutely necessary." John led his team to the shuttle bay, where they suited up in full combat gear. Each member carried standard rescue equipment alongside their weapons. The shuttle launched smoothly from the Pathfinder, approaching the damaged alien vessel from its shadowed side to avoid detection by the attacking ships. "Look at the size of that thing," whispered Kelly as they approached a damaged docking port. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and her hand rested on her sidearm. "I've never seen architecture like this." "Those aren't metal alloys in the hull. Focus on the mission," John reminded her as he guided their shuttle toward an entry point. "We don't know what we're walking into." The shuttle's magnetic clamps engaged on the alien hull with a dull thud. John checked the atmospheric readings. "Breathable, but barely. High nitrogen content, low oxygen. Keep your rebreathers on." They moved through the damaged docking bay, into corridors lit by emergency lighting that pulsed in patterns of blue and purple. The architecture was unlike anything human minds had conceived, organic curves blended with crystalline structures that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. The first bodies they encountered confirmed they were dealing with a non-human species. The fallen aliens were tall, with iridescent skin and multiple joints in their limbs. Their armor was embedded with technology that still hummed with power, even as the wearers lay motionless. "These must be the crew," Kelly said, scanning one of the bodies with her medical device. "Cause of death appears to be weapons fire." A distant sound of energy weapons echoed through the corridors. John signaled his team forward, moving toward the conflict. They followed the sounds of battle through the massive ship, encountering more casualties along the way. The layout grew more elaborate as they moved deeper, suggesting they were approaching important areas of the vessel. Eventually, they reached a massive doorway partially blocked by debris. Through the opening, John could see what appeared to be a throne room. Several aliens in ornate armor fought desperately against a larger force of darker armored attackers. At the center of the room, a slender figure in elaborate ceremonial armor stood behind the last defenders, a weapon in hand despite clearly struggling to remain upright. "That has to be someone important," John said. "We need to intervene now." Or there won't be anyone left to save? Without waiting for discussion, John fired his weapon at the nearest attacker. The energy pulse caught the dark armored figure by surprise, dropping it instantly. Kelly and Sam followed his lead, creating a crossfire that confused the attackers. The defending aliens, momentarily surprised by the unexpected assistance, quickly rallied. The battle intensified as John's team pushed forward into the throne room. The central figure, clearly female by human standards and wearing the most elaborate armor, suddenly collapsed to her knees, clawing at a damaged panel on her chest piece. "Something's wrong with her," Kelly called out, firing another shot at the attackers. John made a split-second decision. "Cover me!" he shouted, then sprinted across the open space toward the fallen figure. Energy blasts scorched the floor around him as he ran, but he reached her side unharmed. Up close, he could see her struggling to breathe, her multifaceted eyes, shimmering with an inner light, fixed on him with a mixture of surprise and desperation. The damaged panel on her chest sparked and hissed. Breathing apparatus, John realized aloud. He recognized the symptoms from his emergency medical training. She was suffocating, her system unable to process the ship's atmosphere after whatever device had been regulating it for her failed. As her guards continued fighting desperately against the attackers, the alien princess took what appeared to be her final gasping breath, her iridescent skin fading to a dull gray. John reached for his emergency medical kit, determination setting his jaw in a hard line. He had no idea what he was dealing with, but he knew one thing for certain: he wasn't going to let her die without trying to help.